Well, it's time for budget conversations. Again, as we always do, daily, we get you a partner from Deloitte, and today it's Munjal Kamdar, who is the partner with regard to cybersecurity at Deloitte. Munjal, a very interesting niche, right? Just let's set the context before I get into a little more granularity. How is India placed versus the rest of the world when it comes to cybersecurity? How well placed are we? We've got huge digital public infrastructure. Uh, uh, are there big gaps there?
Thanks for the question. And you're right, cyber in India is a big concern, given the fact that we're just a country, the most populous country in the world, right? 1.4 billion people and a whole lot of digital data, world leaders when it comes to digital payments, right? I mean, we do more transactions every day than China does. So there's just no comparison, right, to what India has progressed on the digital front. And that makes cyber definitely a concern for a country like India. So, well, in terms of placement, we can talk through figures in, who spends how much. But yes, there is a lot to be done as far as India is concerned and improving our cyber security posture, given the budget that's coming up in a day.
Okay. Uh, and what are the kinds of gaps that we're currently seeing in terms of cybersecurity in India, and what can the budget in specific try to repair, in your opinion?
So, see, I'll tell you in terms of why is cyber important to India. So, if you take a top-down approach, the first part really is, as I said, just the population, right? The highest number of online users anywhere in the world, the largest app market in the world. So there's just something that, and given the semi-literate nature of India's population, there is a certain amount of vulnerability that comes with that. So that's point number one. The second is last year, India exported about $250 billion worth of software and IT enabled services, right? We are the back office to the entire world. So, if anything that happens in India that impacts its cyber security posture, it can practically impact India's position as the back office of the entire globe, right? So, that's the second part. And the third is around data sovereignty, right? So, given the fact that AI is developing, we have so much of digital public infrastructure, payments, all of that put together. That itself makes data sovereignty very important. India wants to be able to control its data. India wants to be able to give its citizens a secure environment to operate. So these are aspects that makes cyber critical for India. Now let's look at it from other aspect as well. India is unique geopolitically, right? Most, if not all, our neighboring countries have some amount of unrest, right? And I mean, be it Pakistan, be it China, be it Myanmar, be it Bangladesh, be it Sri Lanka. So there's a constant threat from that aspect as well. I think geopolitically, we would be most closely comparable to Israel, a country like Israel, which again has the same situation. And by the way, Israel is one of the largest cybersecurity hubs in the entire globe, and that's the reason why it's like that, right? Because of the sheer threats that they face, and that is something that India needs to cultivate as well. If you look at just figures, right? I was, looking up some figures. Indians have lost about 53,000 crores in the last 6 years on cyber frauds. 90% of that money is never recovered, right? Out of that, about 20,000 crores was just lost in the last 1 year. So there is an omnipresent financial danger as well to Indians who may not be using securely the internet as well as its applications. And also, if you look at cyber attacks, there were about 22 lakh cyber attacks recorded in the last 1 year itself. That's doubled or more than doubled from about 2 years back. So that's the landscape that I would say exists in India as far as cyber is concerned. And that's where the budget will need to play a role as well.
Couldn't we build something more centralized, and how large is the case, or is having a more fragmented approach the better way to tackle this problem, in your opinion?
See, we need to do a couple of things. I think it has to be a combination the way our government is, right? We have a federal government and we have state government. So there are certain activities that need to be done centrally and that is more effective, and certain activities need to be delegated now. Now, if I just look at numbers, right? See, India has a defense budget that's about $80 billion annually, right? UK has a defense budget that's $60 billion. But if you compare the cybersecurity spending, India last year, the 2025 budget, 1,900 crores was allotted to cybersecurity, which is roughly about $215 million, right? If you compare that with UK spent more than $3 billion on cyber, even though the defense budget was lower. Now, I'm not saying that India's defense budget needs to reduce, rather that the cyber allocation needs to increase. See, India has a cybersecurity policy that was drafted way back in 2013, about 13 years back, by the Ministry of Electronics and IT. It was followed by the cybersecurity strategy, which was formalized by DSCI in 2020. What needs to be done is fairly well articulated in those policies. I think it's a good policy. There's a good strategy. At least what has to be done has been identified clearly. Now the initiatives need to be carried forward. And that's where we look for budgetary support. So if you look at aspects that has already been recorded, right, it's been things like public-private sector partnership, PPP models, right? Centralized infrastructure to monitor threats to the energy infrastructure, financial infrastructure. So those activities have been identified clearly. I think now is the time for the government to start executing on those aspects with adequate financial and budgetary support.
Okay. And so you're proposing not a comprehensive overhaul, use the 2013 framework to build on. Is that what you're proposing?
Right, absolutely. So so for example, if you look at the 2013 National Cybersecurity Policy, right, it covers aspects of protection of critical infrastructure, institutional mechanisms, as I mentioned, public-private partnerships, capacity building. The objective was to train 500,000 professionals in cybersecurity, right, defining compliance standards for India, as well as establishing a legal framework. Now, in the recent past, a lot of these activities have been done. So, for example, as you're aware, we have the DPDPA Act that got passed. The rules were notified in November 2025, right? So that's already been done. And if you look at the cybersecurity strategy, that basically looks at three pillars, right? Securing, strengthening, and synergizing. So all those aspects are there. Now, if you ask me, if you look at the whole gamut of the cybersecurity challenge that India faces, right? I compare it to, if I just draw a metaphor, it's like, a 10-story building is on fire. But if you reach there with one bucket of water, it's not going to help, right? So the aspect really needs to be that we know what has to be done. Now we need to get that going, right? We need state-of-the-art infrastructure. We need more participation with government to encourage Indian startups, right, to focus on cybersecurity. We need active collaboration even with players who may be abroad, be it Israeli firms, be it Western firms, wherever they are, because we need to learn those technologies as well. And finally, we need to strengthen our aspect on training, right? We operate in the cyber industry. I've been part of this industry for more than 25 years. And I can tell you one challenge we always face is shortage of talent, right? We have a few institutions, educational institutions that train our students on cybersecurity. That's a good start, but it's not adequate, right? We need something much more than that. And those are the aspects that we need to focus on. And that's what I'm hoping that this budget will resolve and will allot, right? We need to go way beyond the 1,900 crores that was allotted last year. It was a increase over the previous year. I think it was about one third, 768 crores in the earlier budget. So, but a threefold jump is still not adequate. We need to do much more than that. And we need to get those aspects going with the Indian public sector organizations, participating, actively collaborating with the private sector startups and organizations as well.
The UK, you alluded, Mr. Kamdar, and for me also it was new. The UK allocates approximately 5% of their defense budget to cyber, right? $3 billion out of the $60 billion budget. How much does India need to allocate?
So, in my view, of course, we have a very large defense budget, given again the geopolitics that we face, right? But to me, it should be in the same region of what the UK does, right? So, if you have an $80 billion budget, and that was 6.8 lakh crores last year, we would look, I think, 5% allocation is along the same lines. In a country like India, we will need those funds. Frankly speaking, of course, I don't know where those funds will come from, right? So that's a challenge for the government as well, because that would be an amount that's close to $4 billion from the $215 million last year. So almost a 20 times jump. I don't know whether that would be feasible, but at least that's the direction we should look at, right? A country like China or US spends far more. I mean, many times more. But we need to get there over a period of time.
Right. Thank you so much for coming and speaking to us. This has been a pleasure. That's, of course, on that very, very niche topic with regard to cybersecurity. What we'll do is dip into a very short break. We'll start, or rather continue, market conversations on the other side of that break. Stay with us.